are. And today we're going to be looking at the T. Let me do a bit of introduction. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for introducing me. And you're going to be learning a bit about me today. So I'm going to be knowing some stuff about me today because I have several expressions. Even when I was in Nigeria Republic, people saw another expression. Were like, really? You are also this? I said, yes, I am so many things at the same time. So my name again is Emmanuel. I'm a certified integrative life coach. I'm an evangelist. I'm a teacher. I'm a child human resource. I'm all these things that you're looking at, even I'm out of space. Okay, I'm a level 10 Google Explorer, Google Guide. I'm a diamond mentee and associate of the Orca Coaching Limited. I'm in human resource management. I'm a traveler. And I love having fun. And I've had working experience, actually over 30 years of working experience really, and since graduation. But we have a habit of keeping it to just 2 plus. All right, so that is who I am. And I've been blessed. I've been blessed over the past few years to have global footprints. I'm going to be sharing that with you also. Many people know me as a traveler. They're always going. In the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be in India. And after India, I'm going to be in Turkey. After Ghana, I'm going to be. So that's what people see. But is that really success? Let me share what I have been up to. By God's grace, I've been around all these places speaking, teaching in 4 continents, in 30 different countries, and I love what I do. I do what I love. And my last stop was in Niger Republic. I love traveling, and I love everything that I do. So you might see it and say, okay, maybe this is success. Okay, is that success? Again, I've been able to impact several companies. Multinationals too. I have trained in Nigeria. I've trained outside Nigeria. I've trained from EDs to GMs to whatever. I do that. Those are some of the things that I do. It's not what we're talking about today. That's just a bit about me. This topic, I believe, speaks to me, and I want us to begin to think about our definition, the proper definition. But today we are going to be asking ourselves great question. Jump in just to remind us, this is the 4th edition or the 4th class. Some weeks ago, where we had by the catalyst himself, on navigated mindfulness and grounding. That is book 1. And from there we look at authenticity and confidence. If you want to put it in Igbo language, you call it authentic. We looked at authenticity. Confidence, that was in book 2. And just like last week, we looked at soulful living. Our dear Coach Banker took us through that soulful living. And today we're looking at the T, and the T is true success. What in the world is true success? So as I speak, you want to start scribbling things down. You want to do some screenshots, which is what I do. But beyond the blueprints, okay? Beyond what we have always known. And we learn how we can define, shall I say, redefine success on your own terms. And you might be wondering, what does that mean? Before we jump into that, I'm going to borrow from a quote by the Catalyst. The Catalyst said that true success isn't found. If you want to be successful today, you don't just stumble on success. You think, oh, he was just lucky. That is not true success, really. It is intentionally created. Success is intentionally created. So I want you to align that word, intentionally. Somebody once says that the secret of the success of any man is found in his daily agenda. The secret of the success of any man is found in his daily agenda. 2 years ago, I was back in India the 3rd time. So I was doing leadership training. And people came from Bangladesh, came from Sri Lanka, people everywhere. And I was asking me, said, Mr. Emmanuel, and that's the first time I don't even say me or even me. He said, you do so much. You do so much. How do you manage to do so much? And I told them, honestly, I don't do much. You don't do so much. How do you manage to do so much? And I told them, honestly, I don't do much. 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 I don't do You might be looking at all this. I only do one thing. I've convinced myself all I do is to bring value. So if I squeeze everything I do that to just bring in value, I'm here right now, I'm bringing value. Few days ago, I was training another organization. I was bringing value. So I don't have to go to, I don't have to scratch my head in too many things. So success is intentional. And so when you intentionally create it, then you can offer it. So today, what we do today is to convince you, just suggest to you how you can begin to rewrite your own success definition and the narrative of your life. So, like every other program, I'll give you a promise, but a caveat there. I promise you today, now, giving your full participation in all the exercises and activities, then you should be able to learn these three things. Now, if you are multitasking, I don't guarantee you. My task and condition does not cover you. If you just turn it on and you are doing something else, you're watching the movie, doesn't affect you. But if you give me your attention for the next 30 minutes or so, I promise you three things. We're going to together, we'll be able to release inherited definition of success that limits your vision. Some definition that gives you a sense of pliancy. But a lot of definition has limited so many of us. And that is how I grew up also. I grew up with a limiting definition of what success is. So I was reading around trying to be successful, and I was so miserable. So we're going to explore some conventional paths. These roads less travel. We're going to look at these unconventional paths, and we're going to our own timing. They say that God's timing is the best. Your timing, it is not the same race that you and I are running. When you see somebody's race, like, wow, this guy is doing so well. Oh, that is not your race. And finally, number three, we're going to begin to now redefine the success as service. Three things we're going to do. We're going to redefine success as service, success as alignment, and success as fulfillment. You may want to write that one down. We're going to be able to redefine success as service, as alignment, and as fulfillment. So, are you ready to go beyond the blueprint right now? If you are ready, I want you to type ready in the chat box. Let me know you are ready. If you are ready, let me just see you type chat box in the chat box ready. I should also type that in there. I love doing this. Just make it interactive. All right. Ready. I am ready. Let's see how many people are ready. All right. Engineer is ready. Eyo is ready. Wes again is ready. All right. You have to be ready, man. Kido is ready. Tochukwu is ready. All right. So I want to invite you. And you can keep on typing, even if I'm talking. I want to make sure. So commit yourself. You have to commit that you are ready. Now, here's the first thing we're going to do today. The first thing we're going to do today is we are going to be releasing inherited definitions of success. We're going to be releasing the inherited definition. I'm going to share a lot of those things with you. Now, we're going to learn to offer your life, then offer your story, then look at those unconventional parts, then divine time, we're going to put them together. Now, we're going to do stories that we've always heard. I grew up hearing those stories. And in the course of this training, I'm going to be sharing a bit of my story with you. My story will probably blow you away. Okay? My story is that I didn't start speaking on time. All right. Some of you start speaking when you are 2 years old, 3 years old. For me, it was not that easy. So each time I try to speak, I will stutter, or what they call stammer. I will stutter, and people will make fun of me. And people will make, I grew at the time, I lived behind the enemy line, so to speak. I lived behind the enemy line. I was born at that period where when Nigeria just came out of the civil war. Right, so the smartest thing that my dad did was to relocate his family behind enemy line. So we had to be well accepted. And I got bullied every single day. I'm not kidding. Primary school, I got bullied like every single day. My parents, till they lived and died, they had no idea. And that is why it's very, very important for us to find out what our children are going through. So because of that, I locked up. Really tried. I was not speaking anymore. I remember several times during break time, I would not go to break to go and play soccer, to go and I would stay in my seat because that was the only savior that I have. Because the teacher is always in class, so nobody will bully me at that point. So I now became the only Nigerian that you know in the world who doesn't have any soccer club, who doesn't care about soccer, who doesn't like it really doesn't bother me. That was how I grew up because nobody put me to come and play with them. There was a time I remember I bought one naira for felele, they call it felele, those round ball, and somebody tried to took me and punctured it. After they finished playing, and they went to put me in their team, then they took me out of their team. After they played, the guy punctured it and put it back to me, and I couldn't do anything. So because of that, I was not participating in class. I don't believe it. I didn't learn to read until I was a teenager. And by the way, for information, I taught myself to read at the age of 13. School didn't teach me how to read. I taught myself to read at the age of 13. Using some of the things that I see and hear from Sesame Street. That's what I was using. I began to learn how to sound words. You take a B and AD, add, you put them all together, and this paper. So you can take me 1 hour to finish one page of small whatever. I was sounding. And when I kicked in, I was just flying. After 40 years of my life, I now discovered that I had not a challenge, I had a gift called dyslexia. And people say dyslexia is a learning disability. I say no, no. Dyslexia is that you are so smart, you are too smart that the smartness is trying to come out, but there's no way to come out. There's people like Richard Branson who put dyslexic thinking. Now, right now, it's a gift. So we're going to hear things like success means having lots of money. That was one of the definition that I had. My dad also had that definition. So my dad used all his life trying to make money, quite a lot of money. I'm only in like 5 cars. 5 cars only at the same time. I remember then Allah would start shouting, Mr. Eminem, please come over the car. Other people want to park. But he was not happy. So sometimes we were told that success means holding a high ranking position. And that is what is called the destination disease. Oh, when I become the ED, I'll be happy. When I become a director, I'll be happy. When I become this or that, when I become that. And so, what is the mold that the world tells us? And we live all our life trying to fit into that mold. What about this one? That says success means in this neighborhood and that neighborhood. You are not successful until you live in that neighborhood. So you do everything to move. I don't have anything wrong with moving. I always say that we were told that God created man, body, soul, spirit, and environment. Environment has a lot to play. But think about it. Does environment make you successful? So people say, oh, follow this path, and follow that path. That is what everybody look at what your mates are doing. And in Africa, we grew up with and it made us a bit more adventurous as a race, as in the Nigerian people. They will tell you if you come second, you know, if you come second, you're going to say the person that came first don't have 2 heads. I remember this was me that used to come like last in the class. I used to come last in the class. But at the point, and I got a helper. His name is Akibu. There's some people you don't forget your journey. Akibu was a coaching for me. So Akibu now took over coming last in class. So I knew that Akibu was come last. I remember when I began to learn to read. I learned to read over a long vacation. That's why I learned to read. And by the time I began to read, I remember when we began to distribute the report card, I would start from 35 at the back. 35 was people. 34 was supposed to be. But now they call me, they call another guy again. Then they call 32, they call 31, they call 30. They now move into the girl zone 20, 25, 20. I told myself I knew what happened. I told myself my report card must have been very bad that they had to remove it for special, attention. So I just went to one corner and stayed. I said, hey, you must start hearing all these things. From there, I hear me. They began calling, and lo and behold, when we go to second, I heard Emmanuel Eme. Or like, that is not normal. I mean, that kind of name in that place. And from coming second to the last to second, I remember taking that report card home to my dad. And my dad saw it. My elder brother said, wow, this is the best result my brother. My brother was so proud of me, was so happy. My dad looked at me and said, are you sure it's your result? Now, do you know what that did to me as a young child? And I live my life in saying it subconsciously. I said, I will show you. And guess what? I never went back again. I never went back. From not being able to speak, from not being able to communicate, by the time I was going to finish high school, I finished valedictorian. I won more awards than anybody will win in the competition. I was the assistant senior boy. The guy became the senior boy because he was better in maths. That than me. But I was a valedictorian. So let's talk about these blueprints that will be living our lives. And it's very important. If you're a parent here, you're going to use me to learn. One thing you don't know. By the way, I began learning many languages. I was just listening. I could speak. I'm learning my fifth and sixth language now. So I will listen. I will learn accent. I will learn I spend my time just learning by just listening and trying to create the things I was hearing. So when you have a mold, just like this, anything that enters a square mold, automatically you're forced to take the shape of the mold. So depending on how you grow up, the kind of things you are hearing, and if you look at on the right side, you see a blueprint. That's what we call blueprint because it's usually blue, right? And an architect will design the house, give it to you as a builder, and just go and build. But can't you say, you know what? Can I have a say in this thing? Many of us here, and I dare say, including myself, growing up, we never had a say in our lives. And it starts from when we are young. Of course, it's a time in your life where you shouldn't have too much say. I mean, if you have 3, 4 year olds, we determine what we wear, we determine what we eat, we determine when they sleep, we determine their friends, and we determine the school. But as they grow up, we need to teach them. Rather, we not teach them that when you ask questions, is rude. When you ask, what do you want? If you are giving Coke, you'll be trained to say you want Coke, you say not. We call that humility. But what you don't do is that after a while, it now begins to affect us. So your definition of success is largely due to some of the things that you have heard. But you ask God, you made me right. What do you see? And I will take you to a book like Genesis chapter 11 in verse 5. The Bible said that, but the Lord God, when he came down, God came down to see the tower that these men were building. God himself was convicted. When you do something and you are very impressed, and you are super impressed. But in this time, God was like, oops, what did I just do? But he said, if as one people speaking the same language begin to do this, nothing they plan to do will be possible for them. That is God himself giving you his own verdict. If as one people, these guys unite, they are consistent, they know what they are doing, there is nothing that they start to do that they cannot achieve. So, but do you believe that is the same DNA that you carry? Because you are a child of God. It doesn't matter how you came in. Like somebody said, there might be irresponsible parents, but God is not irresponsible. Maybe something you are born out of wedlock. Maybe like somebody was sharing that she was a product of rain. But for the fact that you are here, that means God has allowed you. And for everyone who is here today, there is a purpose for your life. So there is the principle of knowing. You need to ask the question, what am I here to achieve? When and how? The purpose that God has given to us. So let's take a few seconds to think about the pressure many of us grew up with. I've shared some of my pressure. I grew up with so much pressure. I was never good enough. I was never good enough. It was like, when I try, was, when I try, it's like, there's always a yardstick. Now, I think that this yardstick is to make us to do more, but sometimes people have been damaged by it. So because of what I went through, I made decisions on how I was going to raise my children. Right from when they were like 1 year, my wife and I decided there are principles that we're going to imbibe. One, we're not going to rush our kids. Both of my kids started primary school at 6 years. I remember the first time my daughter was going to school. Like, she's so old. Where has she been? And she's been at home. So because we think, because this thing about, oh, this is how far, the pressure of the first class, the pressure of you have to bypass NYC, the pressure you have to get into, finish now and get into oil company. When our kids were individually were in primary five, there were probably like maybe 4 or 5 people in their class. Because parents would be for secondary school, like, why waste 1 year? I say just go. And a lot of them are pushed and are pushed. Many parents today are getting their children to live out your fantasies. And so you are defining what success is. You're not asking them, what do they want to be? So I began to look at that. So and I told myself, my kids, I said, after secondary school, have a family, not go to school for 6 years of your life. All that, to relax. What do I do? Go learn a trade. There's also my son picked up coding. He picked up coding, whatever. Our daughter picked up baking. And guess what? That is what she's doing till now. Now she's finishing next few months from university. So you need to discover, why are you here? My dad, when I began expressing myself in academics, my dad wanted me to take over his company, his engineering company, Asseco Abazi Standard Engineering Company. And even as a teenager, I was so pained by what I went through that I told myself, I'm not going to do it. And what I did, I dropped out of science class. I tried to drop out of science class. In Form 4, I dropped out of science class. I don't want to do science. Because if I do it, pressure will be engineer. You have to be an engineer. And even when I got my first admission, that's why you can't go. Well, until you get this one. Because my mathematics, for some reason, I didn't pass in mathematics. So while I was at home, I was studying JAM, I was studying whatever. When this day came, I didn't show up, it was absent. I told myself, no, this is not what I want to do. And was some people have used religion. There's a popular scripture used in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 that says, originally it says, train a child in the way of the Lord. And when he grows up, he will not depart from it. So pressure. I want to train my child in the way of the Lord. So when my children grow, they don't love the Lord. They feel, oh, I have failed. And I'm telling you, what I feel. I took Hebrew language actually. I began learning Hebrew language some few years ago. MSc. I began learning Hebrew language. And the things that I found out. Now, a lot of translations have changed what they used to say. They used to say, train a child in the way of the Lord. But actually, in Hebrew, it sounds more like train a child in his ways. It is only the amplified version today that comes close with a parenthesis. That says, train up a child in the way he should go. And they put a parenthesis there. And the parenthesis says, and in keeping his individual gifts and bend. So my son is a maths major. Mathematics, he didn't get that from me, definitely. He's a maths major. He's good with his hands, IT, whatever there. So when we ask him to go and do another thing, he got his first admission, first batch. But unfortunately, he was disqualified because of state of origin. And they gave him another course and he says he's going to take it until he gets the course that he wants. I said, sure, I'm not going to pay for another jam. But there's no problem with that. Wait until we're able to do that. So people today are running while other people are just strolling. If you don't do the things I do, I guarantee you that you're going to be out of breath because it's not your calling. That's what I do, and I want to see is the travels going everywhere, all the expense trip, every single thing, whatever. But I tell them there are two things I hate. I love traveling. I hate airports and I hate embassies. And I speak right now, my passport is actually 2 embassies. I have to move from one embassy to another embassy so that put my visa. I hate embassies. But if you don't be like me because of the journey, you are going to get tired. You are going to get frustrated. So begin to ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I here? So here are the things that we need to do. How we begin to release those chains. All those chains. And there are 3 things I want us to do to release all those things. You know the chains, you know what you have heard, you know the things that you have heard by your parents, by your society, by the community. There's so much expectation, and you are being forced into the world. Number one, let's start by identifying them. You need to ask yourself a question right now. What are those things that have blocked me? What are the truths in my life regarding success? You should be this. You should do that. You should live here. You should acquire here. It's in your life. So if you can write it down or make a mental notes. First of all, you have to identify. In this Six Sigma, we want to say what you cannot define, you cannot control. For example, the human being right now is pretty cold, and intermittently I regulate it. You can't regulate it if you cannot even measure. Okay, the temperature is going too low. I have to regulate it. So ask yourself that question: what are the shoes in your life right now regarding success? Then number two, who told you this is what success looks like? Ask yourself. Then write it down. Be honest. Some people say, oh, success is when you have your first child at 25. Success is when your child enter primary 1 at 2 years. I mean, when the daughter was in school, she used to come back home and say, Daddy, one boy is really pass in my class. Because they're so young, they are babies. A lot of them go to school, they are babies, and they join clubs. They are people to join all sorts. So, unless you drive this kind of car, you want successful person. So you do everything you want to belong. Unless you do this kind of neighborhood, unless you eat this kind of restaurant, and you are always fitting in. One thing I can guarantee you that you will never completely fit in. Because as you think you're fitting in, the bar will go up. I know you live your life trying to please people who don't care about you. So number one, identify what those voices are. Number two, begin to question them. Begin to question them. Now, ask yourself this question. Do these definitions about success, do they resonate with my value as a person? Do they resonate in my value? Do they align with my deepest desire and the gifts that God has given me? Do they bring me peace and or pressure? Ask yourself, this thing that I'm looking, if you question it, what I'm about to do, this way I'm living my life, does it give me peace? Am I able to sleep at night? Am I in a rat race, just running? Is it an execution of gifts that God has given me? Does it speak to my why? So one, identify what those what voices are. Number two, begin to question them. And number three, you have to now gently detach. Gently detach. Not just detach, gently detach. So how do you do that? You need to acknowledge where they come from first. These things may be from your parents, from society, from school, from your neighborhood, from what you read, from social media, from wherever. You need to acknowledge where these things come from. Perhaps, with some level of gratitude for the intention. I know this thing meant well, but unfortunately, it is harming me. It's becoming, it's also coming higher, but it's not becoming poison to me. So you have to now understand they are not your ultimate truth. True for someone. It might be true for the Igbo. It might be true for Ugandan. It might be true, but is it true for you? Is it really you? Ask yourself, are you honoring the giver of your unique gifts? Are you honoring God with your life by seeking your own path or seeking these paths that people are calling to? Or are you dishonoring your elders? Are you dishonoring the people in your community? You know what they normally say in Igbo language? They say when bad character passes 2 years, it becomes Ominala. When bad character passes 2 years, if you do something bad, if you are like to it becomes tradition. And somebody said that tradition is nothing but peer pressure from dead people. If I ask you, why do you do that? You probably tell me, well, that's how they do it. You need to say, I chose. Did you choose your life or it was handed to you? So this is not about being rebellion. It's not about being rebellious. It's not about you need to be humble. Sometimes we slam ourselves to be humble. These things can also be quiet. You're not expressing. How is it? Are you truly happy? Look at your responsibility to your unique potential that God has given you. If God calls you today, when God said, well done, my good and faithful servant. God said, what do you do, my son? What do you do? You with all gifts are giving you. So this is all about trusting the architect. They say there are two times in a man's life, a woman's life also. First time is when he's born. The second time is the day he discovers his why he was born or why he's born. When you discover your why, guess what? You just be cruising. And that's why Proverbs in the Bible, chapter 3, verse 5 says, trust in Lord with all your heart, not your own understanding. Trust God, why am I here? Ask God, why did you put me on planet Earth? There has to be a reason why I'm here. And when you discover it, the ways you can begin to write it is by affirmation. You now begin to now put those programs in your mind. Let that affirmation begin to ring in your mind because the program that be playing in your mind. By the way, the song that be playing in my head for the last 10 days is the new song. So Fanta, we are looking ringing. You don't want to learn it. You just know the words. Because that is what repetition does. All right. So I want you to say, wherever you are right now. You can say it loud or you can type it in your book or whatever. He said, I release limiting blueprints. All the limiting blueprints of my life. I release them. And I'm trusting God's unique plan for my success. Today, I'm going to release all those limiting blueprints that are not helping me. Those limiting blueprints that is keeping me. They were today, they can't stop smoking because they were told to young age, when you smoke, like you're a good guy. And they are killing themselves. You are entering a mold. You need to choose. No pressure. You just want to belong. So how look at that? This is now the point where you have to now begin to now explore. So if I'm going to live this path that I've known all my life, so what about the other path? There's a book that I have read over and again. This year I've read it like many times. Two books actually. One is Who Moved My Cheese? It's about change. And there's actually a sequel to that book. It's called Out of the Maze. Time we are afraid of change. When we are trapped, is that we're afraid because we don't know what tomorrow will be. We don't know. So we hold on to the little change that we have. So I want us to begin to now explore. After you've questioned it and you ask it, I want you to now explore what are those unconventional paths that you have not taken that's going to help you to begin to honor your time. This is where you now begin to now rewrite, author your story. I began to author my own story. There was a time that my dad told me, my dad said, this guy is so lucky, man. And he said it straight to my face. He said, just little you have been born dumb. Imagine a father telling a child that you have been born dumb to talk. And it disturbed me for a while, but I had to fight it. I had to say, I'm not dumb. Now, you might see me right now with multiple awards and every single thing, whatever. I had to fight. I had to change that mood. I had to change that mood. So, all those uncomfortable parts, unconventional parts, you're afraid to venture out. And as soon as you're afraid, you're going to end up repeating the same mode that your parents have had. So once you begin to question and release those old blueprints, something beautiful begins to happen. Something scary too begins to happen. Now there's going to be a space that will open up for you. And that's how you know right now you are beginning to author your life. God says, come, let's reason together. If anything about you is what was handed to you, then where is the free will? Where's your choice? So I want us to now begin to now explore your own path. That was a train a child in his ways. What is your way? There was a time I remember where I was somewhere in Osho, solo. We were one Saturday in the morning. I was out to come and present a class in a hotel somewhere. And one of the guys there, almost in tears, began to share that when he was young, a teenager, he loved soccer. He wanted to play soccer. His mother took his soccer boots and used a knife to cut it up into shreds. And he cried and cried. Because of the love for soccer, he still going to play soccer with his bare feet while he was sleeping. The mother came and used blade to simmer, to lacerate his feet to make sure he doesn't play. Can you imagine? Because the definition of that mother's success, who could ever believe that? Look at Osimhen, what he's doing in Turkey. Look at what in the next few weeks I'm going to be in Turkey and pray that I want to run into him. You know, look at what that guy is doing. What is success? Is that success? We don't say this, family basically. And have four. What is real success? Are you living out your passion? You before you die, if you're not going to die, will you say, God, I came, I saw, I conquered? Or will you say, God, I've wasted all my life chasing after things that I don't even understand? So in a society that often values all this conformity, things are very predictable. They force you to choose, what is conventional. Like starting a business, you're afraid. Let's start the business nobody's ever done it before, so you cannot do it. What about career? People are not taking soccer playing as career, DJs as career. Can you imagine? Men, do you know how we pay them? Not men in parties as a career. Musicians, look at what people like somebody they did, a penis of it. Salah, they were working Zebediah. They worked out all their life, but they couldn't do much. But look at what social media is doing. Just go now and just record the skits and put that there, and they are making, and some of them are making an average of $30,000 every month, 30 grand every month. In those days, you see people hawking their CDs on the road, hawking their CDs. How many people do you see right now? They do CDs and put it online, down for free, and they make more money. So you must be ready to change into a new mood. You are afraid and fear. The Bible said that anybody who has fear doesn't have the love of God in him, because fear has to do with punishment. You think you will fail, and that's why you don't venture out. And all your life, you are just going around. You want to go through the horizon. I've told people in business that if you travel on a ship or a boat, you have to fall off. And that thing, until Ferdinand Machina said, you have to do it. Another French guy, Christopher Columbus, said, if I'm going to go to India, I'm supposed to travel east to go to India. What if I travel west? I can get there faster. And after a few weeks of traveling, he said, it's India. And he saw people say, these people are kind of difficult and different. They are red Indians. Unknown to him, he just discovered a brand new continent. That was how America was discovered. Because somebody ventured out. Because somebody said, let me see what is beyond the horizon. Die, not die. You were created in the image of God. In Latin, it's called imago Dei. In Latin, you are the image of God. There's a quote that I memorized a few years ago. It's from a book of scientific discovery. And it was a man known as Thomas Kuhn. Thomas Kuhn, there's something that he said I'd like to share with all of us right now. It's all about paradigm. Thomas Kuhn said that the man, listen carefully, Thomas Kuhn said the man who embraces a new paradigm at an early stage will often do so in defiance of the evidence provided by problem solving. He must, that is, have faith that the new paradigm will succeed with the many large problems that confront it, that the older paradigm has failed with a few. Thomas Kuhn said such a decision can only be made by faith. Think about the Wright brothers when they came out to say we want to build something lighter than air. Are you crazy? We're just trying to manage this automobile. You want to fly. Think about what Edison, we're trying to create a light bulb. We like our candle. And it failed thousands of times. It failed over and over. People laughed at it. Think about Noah. For 120 years, he was building that ark. People are laughing. Nobody has ever seen water fall from the sky before. There are a lot of things today that God is going to put in your mind that is very unconventional. People will laugh. And guess what? Those are the things that the world will come. So embrace a new paradigm at an early stage. You must do so in defiance. You must defy. You can't be you have to be crazy. Because the people be saying, let's do this way. You say, no. What about it this way? Think about it. For example, he's not the richest man in Nigeria, whatever, but Tinubu had gotten himself in it the way he thinks. So he didn't just climb the corporate ladder like everybody else. He find it through what is called Africa, what's it called? Africa capitalism, after capitalism. So today we saw need and he created a path that didn't make it fit into what you have in your environment. You see, over 15 years ago, I remember walking into co-creation hub in Sabo. Instead of my took me to the co-creation hub, let's go hang out. And I saw young people. And not knowing that in the next decade, virtually all the tech industry in Nigeria were doing on that same road, Sabo, University of Lagos by the corner, Yaba Tech by the corner, whatever. And boys were beginning every junior, leader, these guys, young boys were there. When I say, no one share, go and look for job. Your meet are working banks. Your meet are making money. Your meet are whatever they saw something that people were not able to see. And that is why your eyes, what you have right now, is designed for sight. And that was why in the book of Ephesians, Paul told the church in Ephesus, he said, I pray that God will open the eyes of your mind. So that is for vision. So today, don't see yourself the way you are, see yourself the way you could be. I began passing that in my life. And for those of you some of my colleagues are here and every single thing, you know that I pioneered so many things. I pioneered so many things. I remember like 25 years ago or more or thereabouts, I'm amongst my people, my training and every single thing. I was supposed to start using PowerPoint. Say PowerPoint. Like from flip charts. I used to call it muscle points. From flip chart. I had to teach myself how to do. I didn't have a computer. I had to teach myself. I remember one of my colleagues saying, what if money they do self? What's money? Money they come show television. Show television, so they show. Because you understand? Because I was able to see this is where this thing is going. And see, those who embrace a new paradigm at an early stage, before they become popular, they must do so in defiance. Many of you today are waiting when it's now popular, you now begin to now go. You don't feel afraid of AI, you're afraid of whatever. Listen, AI will take job from you. And that time too late. So think about the tech industry. Think about what Nigeria has been able to do right now. Think about how we can send money. Because people believed that this is possible when they are meant to say, oh, let's just go and do conventional banking. I was in Niger. And I was trying to save, to change money to CFA. And I met someone who came to the conference where I was. And he said, do I want to change? I told him. He said, I can make transfer. Transfer to where? He said, to money points. I said, really? He said, I should make transfer to his money points. Amazing. What started up in Nigeria? So there's pressure on all of us today. And I pray that you begin to look at time. The one that is obsessed with timeline. You must get married at 30, you must have your children at this or whatever. And we putting ourselves at that. I told my children, it's not how fast, but how well. Don't worry. You will catch up. I'm not catching up. You are going to overtake people. Just keep on, be consistent at what you are doing. Don't run somebody else's race. Somebody saying, oh, finish my child finished secondary school at 11. That is his race. Somebody said, oh, my child finished university at 17. That's his race. So they don't finish college at 40, 50. You got enough opportunity. When your time comes, then that is your time basically. So this pressure that we put ourselves leads us to rush into decision. When we rush to decision, they will not feel left behind. We're like, look at my bear, I went there, they've done this, and you need to now move yourself. Meanwhile, if you calm down, you will find people who admire you. If your life isn't unfolding according to somebody else's schedule, don't worry. Because the Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, said there is time for everything. And there's a season. So some of you that have been here before, you've heard us talk about time and season. Chronos and Kairos. Chronos, chronometer, chronology. It's about seconds, minutes, and hour. But Kairos is the moment, opportunities. Can you imagine bright chimney I probably to Bright Chimezie. Just one hit. Just one hit. Right now, do you know that Bright Chimezie is number one such song? They are just all the American one. And that's why I love that song by Koko Bands Azuko. Give me one hit, Lord. Like a bull, just one hit. It is the battle is not to the strong. The race is not always to the swift, but time and chance works on them. And guess what? It is God that orchestrates. So you need to say, God, please put me in the right place at the right time. Your season is unique. My season is unique. My journey has its own rhythm. It has its own up and down. That is my rhythm. I know how my own life is. Don't bring yourself into somebody else's life. That is not success. You know, in the past 2 months, I've been studying Stoicism. And one of the greatest, I mean, before then, all I knew about Stoic was when I read in the Bible in Acts 17, when Paul talked to the Stoic philosophers. When I began to talk about Stoicism, what is this about them? And I took a special interest on the man that they call the last 5 good emperors of Rome, Marcus Aurelius. He was a king. If you've watched, what's it called again? If you've watched Gladiator, Part 1, he was that big king that was with Maximus in the beginning. He was a big thinker, a great philosopher. I want to read to what Marcus Aurelius says. Marcus Aurelius says, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So today you're looking and say, oh, I want to do this, I have an improvement. No. He said, that's actually the way. The impediment to action actually advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You can either see the stone in front of you as a stumbling block, or you can see it as a stepping stone. Stumbling block, a stepping stone. You can see the boulder when your life comes to that stop. That stop is not saying you can't do anywhere. It is called a feedback. So I think we need to begin to change our language. How we describe things we don't understand. Oh, so my life just came to a stop. No, I simply got a feedback. You are driving and you see a boulder on the road. It's a feedback. What are you going to do? Are you going to drive around it? Are you going to come with your car to lift it? What are you going to do? So it is not saying stop. It's simply begging you to think. So any impediment to an action becomes an action. What stands in your way? That is part of your destiny, part of your journey. Can you imagine if the brothers of Joseph selling, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zabulon, selling, he would have realized those dreams about the sun going down. He needed to go through that. Even those Ishmaelites didn't show up at that time. That is chaos. If Potiphar's wife to his grave, that is not of his carriers. If the guy, the fellow prisoner, for getting in jail, everything works for the good of those who love God. And that was why Joseph was able to say towards the end of Genesis that it was to save lives that God has sent him ahead. I want all of us to be to embrace our challenges. Your challenge becomes part of your journey. There's a reason why I started speaking and when I started speaking. There's a reason why I began reading. Someone might be you bad. Someone might be maltreating you. But you can either see it as punishment or see it as training. If you have ever watched the movie, what was it called again? Undisputed. And we were maltreating in jail, but we saw it as training. I want you to use this time, this phase of your life. If you are going through some challenging time, it may not come again. Use it to better yourself. So you need to begin to explore what is God thinking about you? What are God's thoughts about you? Isaiah chapter 55 says, for the thoughts I have for you, my thoughts are not your ways. My ways are not your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than the earth. So your thoughts has to be God's thought. So we need to cultivate curiosity. When you're in a situation like I do now, ask myself, God, what are you trying to tell me here? What are you trying to tell me here. You know the reason why I'm saying Sokoto right now, because I assumed that I was going to come back from Niger in particular day. So I already booked my flights, and there was no flight on Tuesday, today, no flight, so on Wednesday. So rather than whining and complaining, I tried to change my flight. But told me, so you cannot change the flight. So what did I do? I turned my hotel room into a studio. I've been writing. And what I would have been able to do if I was in Lagos, I've been writing, I've been going through my slide, I've been planning, and not everything. So you can either see it as punishment or someone is after you, village people, or you can see this is our opportunity. So cultivate curiosity. What genuinely interests you? What problem do you feel drawn to solving? And I solved lots of problems with the past few days I'll be here. Number two, you need to now begin to experiment in small ways. Experiment. Can you volunteer in things? Can you take a course? Can you start a side project? That can relate to some of the conventional path we are thinking. Can you dip your toe? Don't be afraid. And take an average of maybe 6 courses a year. I read an average of maybe 15 books a year. I challenge myself to go further, because if I'm a custodian of knowledge, if I'm constantly teaching people, training people, then I have to make sure I renew myself. I have to make sure I get updated. Many of us don't want to experiment. When you're used to one particular thing, you don't want to it. You don't want to, let go of that thing. And that's why when that thing is being still, you will not know. Then try to listen inwardly. Meditate and ask God, what plans do you have for me? Pay attention to things that give you energy. Those things that make you feel aligned. And those things that drain your energy also. Your inner compass, where is it guiding you to? Is it guided by the spirit, or is it guided by your stress? It's like exercising. Your body knows when you're exercising and when you're just gathering stress. So please make affirmation. Let's all of us affirm right now with the power of exploration and timing. I want to say to yourself at this time, I have the courage to explore unconventional paths. I have the courage. Because it takes courage. I trust and I honor my unique and divine timing. I honor my unique and divine timing. Another thing you need to do, number 4, is to seek wise counsel. Talk to someone. All right? Talk to someone. Get coaching. And that's why we are calling people, get coaching, get counseling, go for therapy, do something. You can't be judging your case. Submit yourself. It takes a lot of humility to submit yourself to someone and say, hey, please check it out. How am I doing? Now, make sure that person is not also infusing someone who knows what they are doing. And finally, we can now begin to now define success in 3 ways. So success becomes the intersection where service comes, then there's alignment with purpose that God has given you, and there's fulfillment. If those 3 things come together, then you are successful. So that's why we say we need to go beyond the blueprints that we have. We need to go beyond the that we have. So success becomes less about what you get. Oh, I'm getting this, I'm getting that, I'm buying car, I'm buying whatever. And it's more of who you are becoming. So who have you become in the past 5 months of the year? It's about how you contribute to humanity. Are you simply a sponger, just taking and taking and taking? Are you transforming? And that's why the Bible says, do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed. 2 words, trans, to go beyond, form, which you have, beyond your form. So I want all of us to begin to identify your values. What value do you bring? Identify your gifts and passion. Then, in a way, find your service avenue. How are you contributing to humanity? Then check for alignment every day. Am I living out my calling? Then you now begin to now cultivate gratitude. Thank God for everything. The Japanese figured it out centuries ago. They figured all these things out that I'm telling you right now, and they call it ikigai. Ikigai becomes the intersection between what you love doing and what you are good at. Sometimes people love something but they're not very good at it. You love soccer but cannot play soccer. Then what you can be paid for. Sometimes you are doing what you like. We're not making money. Then what the world needs is what you have. If you can get intersection of what you love doing, if it's what the world wants, and it is what you can get paid for, and it is what you are good at, guess what? You're just going to be flying. You don't think that you are doing work. You're going to have a passion, a mission, a profession, and a vocation. Many of us today are just saying what you have is just a profession because you went to school, you studied this, but you're not passionate about it. I'd like to stop here a bit because of time. I'd like to just stop here because we've already gone beyond time. But what I want to do at this point, I want to take us into something that is going to help us. As we close, I wrote down some affirmation that I think it helps me, and I think it's going to help all of us. I want you to tell yourself, you can say it out loud, or you can whisper it, or you can say it, whatever. Tell yourself, I am an original. I am divinely crafted for a unique purpose. Today, I release every inhibiting blueprints of success that has ever limited my vision and has ever dimmed the light that I have. Today, I affirm that I am not defined by the world's measurements, but by God's infinite design for me. Today, I embrace my unconventional path because I know that my journey is tailored for my growth and is tailored for the impact that I'm going to make. Today, I trust my unique divine timing. I am free from the pressure of comparison or of fear of being left behind. My season is now, and my progress is perfect for me. Today, I choose to define success not by what I accumulate, but by who I am becoming and how I am contributing to the entire world. My success is service, a life that is poured out, making a tangible difference for His glory and for humanity's good. My success is alignment. I live in integrity. I honor my value, and I'm working in harmony with God's purpose for my life. And finally, tell yourself, my success is fulfillment. The deep, abiding joy, that peace that comes from a life that is fully lived, truly authored by me, and faithfully guided by God and His Spirit. Today, I declare that I'm bold, I am courageous, and I am free. I'm rewriting my narrative. I'm authoring my success. I am true success, and so it will be. And I ask all of us to go forth into this true success that now awaits all of us. And this is the hour that God has brought all of us to. And what an honor it is to be able to share all of these things with all of us. Again, look at this definition and begin to rewrite it. Those definitions have held you down. Begin to rewrite it. And that is the true definition of what success is. Thank you for having me. I want to hand over to Jennifer at this time. We are down to 82 people. Jennifer, are we able to take questions? You are muted, Jennifer.
My goodness.
All right.
Mr. Emmanuel, that was exceptional. Oh, wow. That was an awesome session. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Wow. So I welcome Mr. Collins now to, take the announcement.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel. That was powerful. That was that was really, really powerful. It was inspirational. It was thought-provoking, and I love the quotes from the one from was it Robert Kuhn and Marcus Aurelius and the likes, right? Very, very powerful. If you listen, Dr. Imam talked a lot about blueprint, right? He talked about alignment. So I want to invite each and every one of us here to redesign the blueprint of your life. In fact, we now know that only 8% of people achieve their goals year in, year out. Why? Because most people set wishes and not goals. So for a goal not to be a wish, it needs to be analyzed scientifically, it needs to be mapped psychologically, drawn in energetically, and covered spiritually. And you can only have that with somebody who knows what he's doing. So I'm inviting you to come and redesign your life in our life design masterclass that is happening on the 13th and 14th of June, right? Please don't miss that class. If you are struggling with your life, you are no longer clear, you don't know what the next 10 years is going to be, what the next 5 years is going to be, this is the class you should be in. And most people go away from our class. After that class, they're able to set between 5 to 10 year goals, right? For me, for my first life design class, I set 40 years goals, and I'm still running that goal right now. So come and use the science, the neuroscience, the psychology of setting goals, and set your goals properly so that you can hit it all the time, right? And then the first 2 days of life design also leads us into what we call life coaching. Are you that person who people usually come to help solve problems? Are you that person who people always take off your energy and you find yourself drained? Are you the the kind of person people come to and ask advice? You give a lot of advice and people don't even take it. I don't know whether you've ever fallen victim of that, right? So come and learn the skills and the tools to be able to navigate, to be able to solve people's problem without a lot of hassles, to be able to learn the methodologies, ask powerful questions, to make people reflect and solve their own problems. It's an 8-day certification course, right? And then immediately you finish that course, because we are an accredited coaching training institution, you become a member of the Life Coaches Association. So I want to welcome you. It's an opportunity to turn your life around and change the life of people around you. And you can also earn from it. Many of us on this call are actually coaches, so we earn from coaching, right? So it's one of the greatest decisions you'll be able to make when you jump into that class. And I see there are a lot of new people here. If you have not joined the Catalyst Global Community, please, Jennifer will also share the link. Click it, join, so that you'll be abreast of much of the information and much of the things that is going on. Redesign your life, because according to Botius, he is a philosopher. He said that in animals, ignorance of themselves is nature, but in man, ignorance of himself is a vice. A vice means it's a sin. If you don't know yourself, you're not aligned, as Dr. Emma was talking about, you're not aligned with where you are going to, right? It becomes a sin. So I want to welcome each and every one of us here, and also invite you into the life design, the life coaching class. And you can always reach out to Jennifer in the community and myself to have more of that discussion. So my number is 081-788-26391. I'll still put it in the chat. So if you want to have that discussion, you want us to take it that discussion to the next level, please send me a WhatsApp, and we'll start that conversation. All right, thank you. So on that note, I want to thank everyone for showing up. We still have 2 weeks to go, and next week I'll be coming, and the upper week is TC. So get ready, wear your seatbelt, and see you next week. All right, bye, and God bless you.
All right.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
phenomenal evening. Bye.